Welcome to the premier location for political analysis and commentary delivered with a sarcastic and angry tone on YouTube today. My name is Michael Willenberg and I am the angry old political man. We again have a lot to get to, so let's get to it. First up, in my home state, news of Keith Ellison abusing his ex-girlfriend, Karen Monahan. But he's Muslim, Michael. They're supposed to be the nice, peaceful ones. They wouldn't do something like that. Well, yeah, he would. And not only would he do that, but there's a second one, and I'll post the picture of the police report below, that not only did he do it with Monahan, he also did it with somebody else, too. Speaking of Muslims, and another case for the wall, one of the suspects that was arrested at the extreme Muslim compound in Mueller, New Mexico, was in the U.S. illegally for more than 20 years. Now, you would think that they would keep them, but a judge doesn't actually think that extreme Muslims are a threat to the nation because he decided to release the Islamic terror suspects on bond. You'd think they would keep extreme terrorists to make sure they didn't do anything, but according to Jay Austin and Lauren Gigohan, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, no clue, decided that they would agree with the judge because, of course, evil is an imaginary concept. It doesn't actually exist. Of course, they failed to prove their point when in Tajikistan, I think, something-istan, who knows, they were captured by ISIS terrorists and they stabbed them to death. Well, I guess evil does exist. Time to accept that. And bring up the wall, let's talk about Trump for a while. Trump actually signed the biggest pay raise for soldiers in 9 years, but I thought he was supposed to be the bad guy, right? Well, I guess he can do some good once in a while. Actually, he's done a lot of good all the time, but let's look at that a little closer. In 9 years, what was 9 years ago? Could it be that the military is actually respected now? Terrorism, we have the UK, which is currently averaging at least 15 acid attacks every week. Not that Khan in London would actually understand how to prevent that, which is to allow people to defend themselves from such a thing, you know, with a knife or a gun, something along those lines. But after imposing knife control, he actually wants to ban cars in certain areas. Mr. Khan, when are you going to understand that criminals do not obey laws? That's why there's so many attacks in the first place. I don't get it. Give them the ability to defend themselves and things like this wouldn't happen. What you're doing is actually the reverse and causing more to happen. We spoke about Trump for a while. Let's cover his opposition by the name of Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now, that server that she used for supposedly innocent purposes, nothing to see here, nothing at all. You know, perfectly fine. Well, apparently, Judicial Watch just released 2 batches of emails, one at 184 pages, the other at 45 pages, that were classified as confidential. They include negotiations between Palestine, Israel, UK, Northern Ireland, references to Sid Blumenthal, George Soros. Yeah, these are going to get her in a lot of trouble, folks. And an order by Judge James E. Boasberg says they have to process these documents no later than September 2nd. She's going to prison, folks. That brings us to Omarosa, who released a recording of supposedly White House Chief of Staff John Kelly supposedly threatening her in the Situation Room of the White House. using words like things could get ugly for her and she was open to some legal action for conduct that would merit a court-martial if she was in the military. She called it a quote-unquote very obvious threat. No, Omarosa, maybe you were just that bad of an employee. Of course, don't take my word for it, because let's just use her own book, what nice timing, by the way, that she's trying to promote, saying that she tried to approve more aid for Puerto Rico in October of 2017, but was shut down by John Kelly, and Kelly used derogatory terms to Puerto Ricans on several occasions. But of course she couldn't point out what those terms were or when they said them or anything. Does any of this make sense to you? Doesn't to me. But let's move beyond that and just take for existence Geraldo Rivera, who was actually on the trip with Donald Trump and his wife, interviewing them both, accompanying them to provide comfort for the people of Puerto Ricans. And he outright said on Twitter on August 14th, 2018 that she wasn't even there. Oops! But if we haven't understood by now that it's all about the money for her, and none of it is actually true, we can take, for example, Piers Morgan's quote on Tucker Carlson's show. And I quote, "She's absolutely appalling. I mean, literally. One of the worst human beings I've ever encountered in my life. She sidles up to me. I've never met this woman. And she says to me, 'Hey, Piers, we should have a showmance.' I said, 'What's a showmance?' She went, 'You know, on The Apprentice, everyone has sex together. So you and I could do that, and then we could sell it and make loads of money.' Is this chick delusional? Don't answer that. And speaking of people that are off the rocker, we have Andrew Cuomo, who said at a bill signing in New York, 'We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.' Does anybody actually have the comments to know where to start with this? Thank God New York GOP does, because they just bought him a one-way ticket to Canada after that remark. Love you guys. News isn't all bad, though. I bring it to West Virginia, who the entire Supreme Court was impeached on Monday for misusing funds for their own personal use. Vehicles, gas cards, office renovations, things like that. How much, you ask? $500,000. Bye. And speaking of other children in government, and I know we covered Hillary Clinton previously, but let's talk about Peter Strzok. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, you don't either. Finally being fired because of his anti-Trump bias at the time at the Bureau. Thank God. Maybe we can get Robert Mueller straightened up and we can have a well-done investigation into Hillary Clinton instead of the circus sideshow that was done before. And speaking of kids, children, people off their rockers, let's move on to the ones living in their mommies and daddies' basements. That's right, Antifa. And by the way, Antifa, these fingers are still for you. Unmasked, come and get me anytime you want. I'm right here waiting for you. Unite the Right To, taking place at Washington, D.C. Unsurprisingly, the children were there, the children in their mom's and dad's basement. And they were there harassing, attacking law enforcement officers, media members. The biggest one, however, making open threats on Donald Trump's life. One Antifa guy saying, "I would murder him." Another one saying, "Do him like Gaddafi." Well, kids, now you got yourselves in some real trouble because the Secret Service is investigating you. By the way, didn't we used to execute people who made threats on the president's life? I think we did. Finally, in good news, St. Paul, Minnesota, beer delivery man Kwame Anderson finds a man clinging to the opposite side of a chain link fence in Interstate 94, and he decided to speak with him, get him to calm down, coax him to the other side with a 12-pack of beer and a good talk and a drink. I don't know about you, but my beer bung's a little empty. So thank you for joining me. If you like what you saw, give me a like. You didn't like it, of course, hit the dislike button, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell to make sure you get everything from now on. Of course, don't forget to visit my Facebook channel, and have a great day.